Ever seen someone who is absolutely, breathtakingly wrong, yet somehow radiates the confidence of a Nobel laureate giving a keynote speech? Maybe it's that guy at a party who just got back from a weekend webinar on astrophysics telling you he's pretty sure Einstein was mostly wrong about time. Or your coworker who, after watching 2 YouTube tutorials, promises the boss they can rebuild the entire company database in a weekend. They speak with total certainty. Their chin is high, their voice doesn't waver, and you sit there, your brain short-circuiting, wondering if you've somehow missed the memo on reality. This is not a comedy sketch. This is your brain on a cognitive distortion called the Dunning-Kruger effect. But here is the terrifying part. This bias doesn't just make fools look smart. It is the psychological bedrock upon which manipulators build empires. The confident fool isn't just annoying. They are often weaponized. Understanding this isn't just academic trivia. It's a survival skill for the modern world. Let's go back to 1999, Cornell University. 2 psychologists, David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger, were fascinated by a specific flavor of human tragedy. They noticed something about people who performed poorly on tests of logic, grammar, and humor. These individuals were not just bad at the tasks. They were catastrophically bad at asterisk, knowing asterisk they were bad. In the study, participants in the bottom quartile of performance thought they had scored in the top third. They estimated their ability as being far, far above average, even when the evidence clearly threw rocks at their feet. Dunning and Kruger won the Ig Nobel Prize for this, a satirical prize for unusual research that makes you think. And their conclusion was brutal but elegant. Incompetence does not merely leave a void of knowledge. It actively robs you of the mental toolkit needed to recognize that void. This is the double curse. You are not only failing the test, you are failing the meta-test of evaluating your own failure. To recognize that you are bad at something, you need a certain baseline level of expertise in that very thing. If you don't know what a 3-point turn is, you can't realize that your 3-point turn looked like a toddler drawing a lasso. Now, this isn't a story about stupid people. It's a story about all of us. We all fall into valleys of incompetence. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a curve, not a personality trait. We peak at the peak of Mount Stupid. We start as beginners, filled with low ability and high confidence. Then, as we gain a little knowledge, we fall into the valley of despair. That's when we realize how much we don't know. Confidence drops. Real expertise begins. Only then does confidence slowly, realistically rise again. The fools, they never leave Mount Stupid. Think about social media. It is a Dunning-Kruger theme park with premium fast passes, a platform where an algorithm can hand an anonymous user a megaphone. Someone reads a headline from a parody site, watches one clip from a debate, and within seconds they are lecturing a doctor on epidemiology. They are explaining economics to a person with a PhD. Why? Because the double curse is in full effect. The little knowledge they have feels massive. The news feed curates confidence. Every like validates the initial naive certainty, but the story gets darker. This psychological gap is not accidental. It is a hunting ground. Enter the gaslighter, the narcissist, the manipulator. These individuals have a frighteningly high emotional intelligence for one specific purpose: reading social weakness. They sense who is unsure of themselves, and they cradle the confident fool like a loaded weapon. How does it work? The narcissist often exhibits the inverse of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They may have high, almost pathological, perceived self-efficacy, but the key tool is the authority trap. A narcissist will often aggressively assert a complex topic with total, unshakable certainty. They don't whisper, they roar. They use jargon that sounds correct. They speak in absolutes. To a casual observer, this looks like confidence. And in a room full of people suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect on specific topics, the narcissist appears as the wisest person in the room. But the real manipulation is more insidious. The gaslighter will actively create a Dunning-Kruger vacuum around them. They will belittle the real expert. They will use sea lioning, relentlessly pestering someone with bad faith questions until the expert gets frustrated and leaves. Then the gaslighter turns to the crowd and says, "See, they couldn't answer me. They were insecure." The crowd, unable to tell the difference between a frustrated expert and a defeated fraud, often falls for it. The confident fool in the audience nods along, recognizing a style of certainty they themselves cannot produce. The gaslighter becomes their guru. Think of a workplace meeting. The project is failing. The data is clear. A quiet, competent analyst presents a cautious report full of caveats and probabilities. We might be facing a 60% risk of delay if X happens. Then the loud colleague stands up. Nonsense! I've seen this 100 times. This is just standard teething problems. We can fix it by Thursday. We just need to push harder. The data is ignored. The confident certainty wins. Why? Because the audience, suffering from their own Dunning-Kruger blind spot on the project's complexity, cannot evaluate the logic. They evaluate the performance. The loud colleague performed certainty. The analyst performed humility. The crowd chose the show. This is how empires of incompetence are built. A leader who is a confident fool hires other confident fools. They cannot tell the difference between good work and bad work. They reward the loudest voice, the one that makes them feel best. The few competent people in the organization look around, realize they are surrounded by enthusiastic chaos, and either shut up to survive or leave. The organization is slowly poisoned. The confident fool is not just wrong. They are actively blind to the right. They are a cancer of certainty. So how do we stop being the fool in our own lives? How do we avoid becoming that person in the meeting? The answer is brutally simple, yet agonizingly difficult. We must cultivate intellectual humility. We need to practice metacognition, thinking about our own thinking. This is the antidote to the double curse. Start with a simple maneuver. Before you assert a strong opinion on something, ask yourself, what evidence would it take to change my mind? If you cannot think of any specific piece of evidence, you are likely trapped on Mount Stupid. You have a belief, not a conclusion. Real knowledge is a provisional state. It changes when new data arrives. A fool's knowledge is frozen in granite. Second, seek out genuine experts and ask them a terrifying question. What do I not know that I don't know? This is the heart of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You don't know the gaps in your own map. You think you have a complete map of the territory. An expert can show you the dark continent you didn't even realize existed. Ask them to be brutally honest. Listen without defending. This is how you walk down from Mount Stupid into the Valley of Despair, which is actually the beginning of wisdom. Third, be suspicious of yourself when you feel the most confident. That's the paradox. When you feel you are absolutely nailing it, that your argument is unassailable, slow down. That feeling of total certainty is often a red flag. It signals that you have entered a closed loop. You have stopped listening. You are just recirculating your own assumptions. Real confidence is quiet. It is the calm that comes after you have tested your ideas against harsh reality, and this time they held up. It is not the loud boast before the test. Now, for the harder situation. How do you deal with the confident fool who is manipulating you? Not the fool in your own head, but the one in your office, your family, or your social circle. You cannot cure their Dunning-Kruger effect. They are living in a reality where they are the hero. Trying to point out their incompetence directly is like trying to explain color to a person who insists the world is black and white. They will simply reject the data. You must use a different strategy. Do not argue the facts with them. They will win. They have less knowledge, so they are less burdened by nuance. They can sprint ahead while you are stuck explaining complexities. Instead, change the game. Ask them a process question. Don't ask, why is your plan wrong? Ask, how did you arrive at your conclusion? What data are you excluding? This forces them to reveal the poverty of their methodology. They can't answer a question about their own thinking because they haven't thought about their own thinking. They will almost always try to dodge or bluster. Their silence will be more revealing than any argument you could have made. Another tactic. Ask them to explain the opposing view. A confident fool often cannot describe the other side's position without straw-manning it. Say, I want to understand your position. So, if you were to debate the smartest person who disagrees with you, what would their strongest argument be? A real expert can do this easily. A Dunning-Kruger sufferer will fumble, get angry, or say the other side is just stupid. Their failure to explain a valid alternative perspective is a clear signal. Protect your own reputation. Do not get dragged into their swamp. Do not let their high confidence and your quiet doubt make you look weak. In a group setting, you can use the confidence deflection. When they make a bold, authoritative claim, don't directly contradict it. Instead, say, that's an interesting perspective. I'm aware of data that shows a different pattern. Let's both present our evidence to the group next week. This buys time. It signals to the group that you are not intimidated but are methodical. It also reveals the quality of the other person's evidence. In the long run, the ecosystem of society suffers if we reward the confident fool. We see it in politics, business, and online culture. The loudest voice gets the attention. The quiet, careful voice gets ignored until a crisis hits. Then everyone asks, how did we not see this coming? The answer is we were listening to the fool. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not a permanent stain on the human soul. It is a snare. It catches us all at different times on different topics. The genius in one field is a fool in another. The key is to recognize when you are walking into that trap. The sign is when you are feeling 100% certain about something you have not deeply studied. That is the moment to hit the brakes. The most educated person in the world is the one who understands the size of their own ignorance. That is the ultimate lesson. The saying goes that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but it's not just dangerous for the results. It's dangerous because it makes you feel safe. It gives you the illusion of a fortress when you are actually living in a cardboard box. We need to build a culture where it is okay to say, I don't know. Where saying, let me check the data, is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness. Where humility is not a cover for laziness, but an invitation to learn. The confident fool will always be with us. They will always be loud. They will always be certain. They will always be slightly more entertaining on the surface. But their empire is built on sand. And when the storm of reality comes, it is the humble person with the provisional answer and the open mind who can still stand. So the next time you feel that surge of absolute, unshakable certainty, pause, take a breath, look in the mirror, and ask yourself, am I on Mount Stupid, or am I actually at the peak of true understanding, that moment of honest, uncomfortable self-doubt? That is not weakness. That is the beginning of intelligence. The fool never asks. The wise person lives in the question. And that question is the only way forward.